If you're like me, and you've been playing video games throughout your entire life, chances are there are a few from your childhood that hold real special places in your heart. These are games we played before the burden of objectivity was a factor in our minds. Because we knew less about the world, we expected less from it, and we were willing to put up with almost anything that could go wrong as long as some other part of the game inspired a sense of true joy within our naive souls. The problem is, some people let these glowing memories from their past dominate their better senses. They might actively overlook all of a game's flaws and convince themselves that it's good, even if, objectively, it's a hot stack of shit on a silver platter. Good thing I don't do that with games, huh? Oh hey, look! It's Bomberman Hero for the N64. I'm holding it closer so that you can see it real good. This game's fucking great. I used to love it as a kid. It doesn't have flaws or anything.
Everyone has certain games that they played as a kid and loved, and then revisited as adults only to find to their horror that the thing they so dearly loved was in fact a hot, steamy load of shit garbage the whole time. Everyone reacts to this in different ways. Anger, depression, denial. How do I react, you ask? Well, I make a video and put it on youtube.net.
And for me, Bomberman Hero for the N64 is one of those games.
In case you're not familiar, Bomberman is a man that blows shit up with bombs. All kinds of shit. Blocks, trees, ancient fossils, not those blocks, balloon people, ghosts, tires, dreidels, occasionally himself.
Basically, if you need shit blown up, he's your man. Your Bomberman.
Bomberman Hero was released in 1998 by Hudson Soft to mediocre at best reviews. IGN called it decidedly average and nothing to write home about. I didn't play it until a few years later when I happened upon it at some garage sale or something. And I loved it. Played the shit out of that game. In fact, it was one of the few games that I ever beat as a kid. I just couldn't get enough of it. And being the kid I was in the days before Twitter and YouTube, I wasn't really exposed to any other opinions on it.
Now let me be painfully clear. I don't think the reviews are wrong. Bomberman Hero is not, objectively, a good game. Not even for the time it came out. But I think there's something reviewers looked past when it came out. Or rather the opposite, there was something they fixated on and refused to look past.
If you've played a few Bomberman games, chances are what you remember the most is the multiplayer battle mode. Everybody loved it. What's not to love about an action-packed cage match against your friends with bombs? But when Bomberman Hero happened, Hudson, for whatever reason, failed to incorporate a multiplayer mode. And that was what let slip the hounds of war for reviewers. The IGN review complains about this not 1, not 5, but a whopping 10 times in just a handful of paragraphs. And I get it, I understand. I mean,
think about what would happen if the new Splatoon was an all-single-player experience.
I think it'd be hard for a lot of us to look past that. But if you take the game as it is, I think you're left with something beautiful. Nah, fuck it, the game's garbage.
So without any further ado, it's time to play it.
Down in there!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, the Bomber Nebula existed. And it was kind of a pretty chill place, I guess. Not much going on here, but then suddenly, holy shit, it's a Death Star or something. And it shoots, like, energy balls? Explosions! Oh no! So the princess steals some kind of secret disc or whatever and is gonna go warn the protagonist, but then, sweet hopping Christ, what's this yellow light and spaceship? Well, as you may have guessed, the princess gets kidnapped and gives the stolen thing to a robot, and then...
Look, the plot of this game is Star Wars, alright? That's the joke here. Moving on. At the beginning of the first level, there's this little one-time intro room that lets you move around and stuff and kind of just get a feel for the controls. But if you don't want to do that, you can just walk right on through this door. And that's kind of nice. Sort of like how the garden of Peach's Castle in Mario 64 lets you experiment with the controls before jumping in if you wanted to. And that's nice and dandy by me. As far as the controls go, they're your pretty standard 3D platforming fare. You can run around, jump, blow shit up with bombs. You know. You can also pick up power-ups that affect your bombs by allowing you to throw up to 4 at a time, or by making their explosions bigger. This is actually a two-way street because you can take damage if you run into those explosions, so then it's easier to hit enemies, but harder not to hit yourself. Throwing bombs feels damn good. It arcs well, and hitting targets and blowing shit up just feels super satisfying. And that's good because that's the central element of the gameplay. Throwing bombs to explode things.
Hey, this game's a blast.
Now, unfortunately, throwing bombs is the only part of this game's control scheme that feels good. All of the movement in Bomberman Hero has this weird, slow momentum going on. Also, all of the jumping is falling... No? Also, all of the jumping and falling is super floaty, and you don't have a lot of control over your direction once you commit to the jump. All of the jumping is falling? Combine that with the fact that the camera angle is fixed, making it very difficult to tell where you're at in the script, making it very difficult to tell where you're at in the Z-axis when you jump, and you can expect to be hearing this sound a lot.
Sucks.
Now that's how the controls work in most of the levels, but there's something else to talk about here. With Bomberman Hero, Hudson tried spicing things up by adding vehicle-based levels. This is exactly as bad as it sounds. Pretty fucking. There are 4 different vehicles called Bomber Gear. There's Bomber Jet, which is basically shitty Star Fox with bombs. Bomber Marine, which is similar but way slower and floatier, and you can move backwards, I guess. Bomber Copter, in which you float around freely while adjusting your height and dropping bombs on shit below you, which is actually pretty fun, you know, when you can actually fucking see what's below you despite the poorly defined Z-axis's best efforts. And last and definitely least, the Bomber Slider, which takes away bombs completely, aka it removes the fun part of the game, and makes you SSX tricky your way through some frozen hellscape with awful slidey controls. Yeah, same. The vehicles are ass tier. Fortunately, levels that use them are few and far between, but whenever you reach one in the game, you're probably gonna end up rushing through it as fast as possible. There's a fucking moth in here. As far as graphics, they're interesting, but not good. It's not that Hudson didn't try, it's that they weren't very good at what they did. It's all very simple and straightforward, and yet the game suffers from horrendous frame rate drops relatively frequently, which is even more surprising because the draw distance is so small that not much is ever going on at the same time. In design, there's definitely a consistent art style going on, but everything is uncomfortably blocky and weirdly proportioned. I mean, it was in the N64, but even for that era, it's a little out of place. I mean, look at this. This was released in the same year as Banjo-Kazooie, and it looks like this! Fucking rippin' polygons, man. Alright, so level design. With Bomberman Hero, levels are typically pretty linear. You start on one side of the level, you work your way to the other side, done. The camera follows you from a fixed angle the whole time, making levels kinda laid out like a diorama, or maybe even a stage with the fourth wall being removed. It's actually a pretty charming approach, and markedly different from its contemporaries. Some levels shake it up with vertical movement, or multiple paths, or more of a sandbox setup. Sometimes there will be keys hidden in the level, and you have to explore it to find them in order to unlock the door to the exit. This is neat, because it breaks up the linear formula and allows you a little bit of agency in what you're doing.
You know, the illusion of free will.
The levels feature a variety of platforming elements. Some of them are pretty interesting. For instance, there's a series of levels where it's so hot in the area that your health gradually decreases, but the levels provide little blue panels that cool you off and restore your health.
Pretty chill, if you ask me.
So the enemies, they're all kinda weird. Like, the fuck is this even supposed to be? I mean, some of them are actually pretty neat, but there's also a part with Geodude and spooky clowns in the same level. So I don't really know how to feel. Let's talk boss fights though. They're all pretty well designed. Well, except for the 2 that use bomber gear. Those ones suck ass. They're all visually interesting and incorporate some neat battle patterns. Nothing too complex, but just enough to be fun, you know? Some of them are actually pretty challenging too. And there's a recurring mini-boss that becomes a little more difficult every time you fight him, giving you a sense of real personal growth and progression as you advance in the game. Fucking rad. In the game's final area, you fight all the bosses over again, but all the battles are completely different, more interesting, and more difficult. And look at that final boss. Look at how doofy he is. That's the mark of a good game right there. That shit. Also on the positive side, the environments in Bomberman Hero? Neat city. They're pretty varied, but still feel consistent with each other. And the atmosphere in all of them is appealing. Check out this spooky level. Ever seen a tree stump do that shit? That's pretty spooky by me. Check out this fire world. Look at this ancient fucking pyramid level. The game world is divided up into 4 regular planets and a 5th and final boss rush planet that I mentioned before. Each one has a general theme, and all of the areas on each planet are kinda related in some way. Kinda. The locations are all pretty generic though, like, oh wow, a volcano world? An ice area? Wow, groundbreaking. It's not really anything you wouldn't expect out of a platformer. I mean, they're all executed well, but they're not very original. Alright, so, sound design. It's... You know, most of it is good, okay? Most of the sounds describe the actions they represent pretty well. Some of them feel really out of place, though. Also, Bomberman's voice is very shrill. You don't hear it much, but when it's there...
I did it!
Ow! What is that? Why is that?
The music, though? Ooh, it's good. At least I think so. The soundtrack is by the original Bomberman composer Jun Chikuma, but unlike the nice, cheery chiptune that had characterized the series up until that point, for this game in particular, she decided to go a bit of a more abstract route. It's all composed in this sort of weird, ambient drum and bass style. It adds something vaguely off-putting, but at the same time, strangely enthralling about the game's atmosphere. After a while, it kinda puts you into some sort of otherworldly trance. It's almost like proto-vaporwave. And the names of the songs are all weird shit like Fatidic, Tripod, or a Pharynx, and Landlord. I'll be the first to admit it doesn't always match the environments and situations very well, but it's good, and it's mesmerizing, and I love it.
And we all know that human emotion dictates whether a thing is good or bad. Now before we get into this next section, I just want to make something clear. I am IRGingest. I am not IR Completionist. I don't always get into secrets and bonus content with games, but I just happen to be familiar with that stuff in this game, so...
So first of all, you know how the Bomberman planet is kind of shaped like his head? So there's actually a few levels hidden in that little hidden in that pink hat thing that's also a moon, I guess? To get there, you have to mash the start button repeatedly on the title screen. Apparently Hudson sold some kind of third-party N64 controller with a turbo option, so it was meant to incentivize buying that, but you can just get there with the normal controller, so... Doing this unlocks a couple of pretty difficult levels that make no sense to me, and I'm not super fond of them, but it's a secret, so there you go. Bomber Hat World.
Slap a sign on it, that's its name now.
There are also some bonus game modes that you can unlock through completion. And completion in this game entails finding all the collectibles in normal levels and beating boss levels quickly enough. So first there's a minigame called Slider Race where you get to race against a dumbass snowman on the shitty-ass bomber slider, and if you win, he's just like, good job, and that's it. 10 out of 10. Completing the entire game unlocks a secret 6th planet with 2 dumb, frustrating levels, one of which is a fucking vehicle stage, and a final secret boss fight with, I don't know, evil demon Bomberman? His name is just question mark, so who knows? Spooky. The fight's actually really hard though, harder than any other fight in the game. It actually took me several tries to beat it, and I'm a grown-ass man. After beating him, you're treated to the secret ending, which could most accurately be described as a goddamn joke. Literally, his friends congratulate him, and he thanks them. That's it. At least in the normal ending, Bomberman gets some, and the character models actually have animations. Kinda. After getting that ending, you unlock Gold Bomber, which is just a couple of levels where you play as a gold-skinned Bomberman. Woohoo.
But wait, my friends. There's still one more secret we haven't yet delved into.
Complete the secret planet, which means acing those 2 ass-tier levels in the ridiculously hard final boss fight, and you get the ultimate game mode, Princess Million's Treasure Hunt.
You wanna know what it is? I'll fucking tell you what it is, it's this!
That's right, by fully completing Bomberman Hero, you unlock the option to play the whole goddamn game over again, but with a couple of collectibles reskinned and in different places. Fucking legendary. All of the secret content feels very distinctively like afterthought. It's clear they tried to make things interesting and add replay value, but the result is a mess of content that I'm sure somebody probably tested once and never again. Almost all of it's reused assets too. They wanted to make completion interesting, but more than likely they ran out of either time, money, or motivation toward the end. And don't say they ran out of ideas. That goes without saying.
All in all though, Bomberman Hero presents a fun world with some swell level design and atmosphere, and accompanied by floaty platforming and gimmicky ass-tier vehicle stages. Oh, and some bonus content that's decidedly not worth the effort. Also, you all know how I feel about that voice.
The Bomberman franchise more or less died after this game flopped, and Hudson eventually went out of business, and the rights to its franchises were bought out by Konami in 2012. It turns out a new Bomberman game is actually in development for the Switch. From the trailer, it looks like Konami is going to be returning the series to the classic formula that put it on the map in the first place, and honestly, that's probably for the best. And hey, Bomberman's voice even sounds tolerable in that one. Kinda. As for Bomberman Hero, while it still shines on in the hearts of the few naive souls who played it at the right time in their lives to appreciate it, it's just not objectively good enough to leave a legacy bigger than that.
Just about every technical aspect of the game is pretty damn subpar, downright bad in some cases, and yet, subjectively, in spite of everything, I still think it stands as a charming relic of the mostly bygone era of the 3D platformer. Sure, at the time it was a poorly executed last-ditch attempt to make the Bomberman franchise relevant again, but thinking about the game as a whole leaves me with mostly fond memories of playing it as a kid. Exploring the world, nailing enemies with perfectly aimed bomb throws, fighting epic bosses, and rescuing the princess? These are the kinds of experiences that we should take with us when we walk away from a game. Or at least, a game you play when you're 8 years old. Is it a good game? Fucking no. It's a hot, steamy load of shit garbage. But you know what? It's my hot, steamy load of shit garbage. And that's really what counts.
The game's over.
On second thought, you know what? Fuck this!
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm here to remind you that if you thought that was just so good that you gotta do something about it, you got options. Number 1, if you want to know when I make new shit, hit that subscribe button. Number 2, if you like this video in any sense at all, well, hot diddly darn, son, we got a button for that too. Number 3, if you got comments, I want them. Number 4, if you're the type of person who, as the kids say, tweets, well, boy, are you in luck. I got one of those as well. Also, if you can't get enough of my beautiful voice, you can get it in a much less produced format over here on the Let's Play channel that my buddy Ryan and I do, called IRGingest. Do you get it? Man, I know what you're thinking. Every fucking body and their mother has a Let's Play channel. Yeah.
Neato burrito.